Welcome to Corporate Elements. Today, we are diving into the world of coding. We all know that it's changing at a really fast pace. It's changing careers, industries, and education. And whether you're a student, a parent, a working professional, or an entrepreneur, this episode is going to help you understand the digital world. And we are back again with our favorite guest into the world of tech, Nathan, who is an integration engineer, and we have Michael, who is a data analyst.
Hi, Robbie. Thanks for the introduction.
Yes, Michael.
Yes, hi, Robbie. Thanks for the intro. Excited to dive into how AI and creativity are reshaping what it really means to be a coder.
I used to believe that a nerdy guy in a shorts at a desk doing some coding and suddenly turning into an entrepreneur with an amazing product. I guess that story goes back to 20 years when, speaking of Mark Zuckerberg, the world has changed now. Coding is everywhere. And more from academic and professional perspective, we want to bring it into light for our listeners. So maybe you can help us, like, how has the meaning of being a coder evolved in last few years?
Okay. So previously, being a coder, the way of teaching in colleges, so I have personally learned by writing code on paper. It used to be about writing the syntax, knowing the logic, how to write, let's say, for loops and basic things. Now, I feel the bar has risen with the emerging AI tools. The definition of being a coder, the skill set that you need to get hired as a software developer is rising. Now, just knowing how to write code is not enough because that's something that AI can already do. Now, you need to know the logic. You need to actually understand that if you want to perform a particular thing using a code, how will you do it? The emphasis on how has increased because after that, writing the code is just a piece of cake for AI.
You mentioned about AI. So do you think that AI will replace coders or actually make them more powerful?
So, in a way, I feel AI is taking away the mechanical parts of coding, leaving us with the creative and strategic parts. And that's where the actual innovation happens.
Okay, so Robbie, I have different point of view on this. So basically, anyone who can code, we can call him as a coder. Okay, but to develop an application that industry needs, or actually people will use that application in their day-to-day life, that needs more. Means you have to actually solve a problem. Not because you are able to write the code, then you write whatever you want. Okay, it should be practical. It should be solving the actual problems. And as you mentioned, the AI is already solving the problems. Okay, so AI will definitely help coder who is already there, who is already solving the problem. So AI will enhance their skills. Okay, but any student who is at the start of their journey using AI, then I don't think that will help them much because they are using AI as their brain. Okay, instead of solving a problem, they are just giving prompt to the AI to generate the solution. Okay, and it becomes very difficult to debug that code. So if I can give you an example, then I'll give example of an warrior. Okay, let's suppose there is a time when ancient warriors were there. Okay, they were fighting with swords and spears. Okay, then AI comes up. So you can replace that sword and spears with the machine guns.
So AI gives you gun.
Yeah. So basically it is enhancing your skills or ability to fight. So now take example of a student who don't have any experience in the domain, or it's a just random guy, a random civilian guy who have no experience of war, and you are just simply holding them a machine gun. So what would be the result? So this is how AI is going to impact students if they are not having strong foundation.
Yeah, so just adding to Nathan's point, now the popular saying goes, AI will not replace coders, but it will replace those who don't use AI. So coming back to the analogy, if I am a coder who is not using AI, so I only have a sword, and Nathan is a coder who is using AI, so he has a gun. So I will lose a battle against him. So that's what I want to.
When I listen to all this, I feel like you're giving a gun to a monkey sort of a situation. But yes, I felt, or probably I resonate with this idea as well, that if you yourself do not know what exactly is the problem as a coder, and if you cannot, articulate that particular problem, that okay, I want to write a code about this certain problem to solve this problem. If you don't have the base level or at least the intermediate level of understanding of those things, I think AI will not be able to help you effectively. It will try to help you, but it will not be able to help you effectively, or probably you do not know if it is trying to help you or not, is what I feel.
So basically, when we look back to all the legends, Mark Zuckerberg, they accidentally came up with a product that became helpful to the humanity.
So it's sort of like it solved this one problem. Okay. So this is a little bit of analysis. Probably I heard it somewhere that Mark Zuckerberg did not solve the problem of friendship or connection. He solved a big problem of how people can share their thoughts in a social setting. So there was this one industry that they affected was the camera industry. So you took like probably 30 photos from a analog camera, but what did you do with that? You didn't do anything. You just put it on paper and you tossed it aside in a cabinet that okay, this is that. But once the digital camera came in, you had the ability to have like 100 200 photos from your vacation. And then what do you do with those 200 photos? You put it on Facebook, you put it on Instagram, you make it like, oh, we did something. So it's sort of solved social problem, but in a very innovative way. So that is one thing. So it brings me to the next question, is that are we moving from just writing codes to solving system level problems through automation and integration? Okay, so basically I have some different point of view. If we take example of Mark Zuckerberg, so everyone talks about the problem solving, but if you look at him, he was just writing something that he enjoyed. Okay, so initially, if you look at the initial stage of Facebook, he's just making a poll of two photographs. So let's suppose there are two different boys from the college, and he'll just initiate a poll. Who is more handsome? Same goes with the girls. So basically, he was enjoying the idea that, oh, I'm able to build this application. So there was no actual problem solving. So basically, it was his enjoyment through which he grew the Facebook. Okay. So basically what happens in real life, everyone, or specifically students, everyone is focusing on the problem statement. Okay, I have to solve a problem. Okay, so they just look at the small piece of problem. But if you come to the business has so many domains. Mm-hmm. Writing a code is a very small piece of that entire business. Mm-hmm. So you have clarity on the bigger picture, how your application is working, what purpose it serves, and what is the idea behind it. So your project manager or your product manager will assign you a simple task. So as a coder, you have to simply solve that problem. But to become an software engineer or an entrepreneur, you must have visibility of the entire product. Okay, so I think that is more important. And
so just to add on, if you just what LLM is today, it's just petabytes of data. It does pattern recognition, and so that's what AI is. It does not have creativity by nature. So right now, if you want to create a next Zuckerberg moment or whenever it will come, AI will help you just replace the repetitive parts where it does not need to think, where there is no creativity. But the main idea that will still come from humans is what I feel.
So speaking of the main idea, like how it starts, you being an original, and for students and early careers, maybe you can give your own personal experiences, like what made you choose this field and what is your education background, or where should student ideally starts learning to code, or how deep should they go?
So if someone is looking into entering tech industry or confused about if they should enter, so like I said, right now not using AI is a disadvantage in itself, but not using it properly is also a disadvantage. If are not able to get an edge, or you are over dependent on AI. If you are outsourcing your thinking on AI, then that's a bad use of AI. So if you want to learn a new language or a new skill, AI is your co-pilot, but it's not the main driver. And if you use AI properly, you will be able to outshine everyone.
Okay, so I'll share one experience. Okay, when I was in the college, we used to write code on the paper. Okay, for practicals, we have to write code on the paper. Then we have to submit that paper to our professor. Okay, so once you have written the code, then they will type that code and compile that code. Okay, so this eliminates the area of errors. Okay, the syntax errors. But currently, I'm looking at the students, everyone is using AI. So they have just eliminate this thing of writing the code. So it's weaken their foundation. So if your foundation is strong, then AI will help you to enhance your skills. So this will lead to problem in the phase of debugging the code. And I think generating code is far simpler than debugging that bugs.
So if I'm just stepping out of school, okay, I am hearing all this work. I'm hearing all these things about that AI is future and coding is the one of the careers to be in, and to scale up the salary level, it says that it gives me an international opportunity to work or move to US. So from academic perspective, can you tell us like how should I enter into?
For academics, if we look at the current structure of Indian education system, so I think academics education is not enough. Okay, if you want to build your career in tech industry, so competition is very high. So you cannot rely on only your college or school for that. You must have the core hunger. Okay,
What
so
any
you can.
specific courses you suggest?
So basically, it depends on you which roadmap that you want to follow. So you can take many platforms out there like YouTube. There are free resources as well. So once you start exploring all the resources, then you can find what suits you best.
I have a resume, and here is the girl who has done masters in big data analytics, and she is from St. Xavier's College. So I think this will open the door of data analytics world for her. But I understand that she was at a time struggling to land a job opportunity, and there is another one where she has done bifocal computer science, and after that she has done a bachelor of science in information technology and followed by master of science in information technology, and this is University of Mumbai and from one of the finest college. And still the person was struggling to find job opportunities, and I guess she was one was looking for opportunity in software and other was looking for data analysis.
So I don't have a particular list of colleges. Like there is no particular list of defined colleges or courses that if you do X course from Y college, you will 100% get job. I've also seen people from tier 1 colleges who are struggling to get a job. And I feel the reason for that is, like Nathan earlier pointed out, the foundation. How strong is your foundation? If your core logic building, your core skills which you need to use in the job, like writing a piece of code without using any LLM, if you actually understand how to write the code or the frameworks that you will use, and you have built projects that demonstrate that you know how to use the frameworks, if you have demonstrated that you have the knowledge and you have your foundation is strong, then I feel getting the job is a one step closer. But if you think that you will do a particular course from a particular college and you will get the job, then those days are gone. The bar is rising and you need to demonstrate real world impact. You need to build projects. You need to show that you are
More than mediocre.
Yeah, you're more than mediocre.
This is what Nathan and I were discussing while we were coming on our way to the studio, where he says that you have to be excellent at what you do because you can't be mediocre, because there are similar knowledge is available on various other platforms. You mentioned something on LinkedIn. Maybe you can tell something about that.
Okay, so I have similar point like Michael. So basically, having a degree or certain certifications from a reputed institute or college certainly add some credibility to your CVs. Okay, but this will guide you to the interview only. Okay, at the actual interview, you have to showcase your skill set. Okay, and many students fails at that.
Yeah, because I feel that the just to add to it, so I feel that the colleges, they're just simply pushing subjects for the name's sake. They're not actually building logic for these people. And the lot of these students, they're being taught syntax heavy teaching rather than more of logic and design thinking. Don't you feel? Because a lot of these people, if you ask them a question, okay, like I remember I spoke to this person and I told this person that, oh, I want to build something like this. And they were like, yeah, probably it is possible. But they were like, I have not built something end to end. I've just done this one portion or one piece of thing, but I've never done a end to end thing. So they were like, okay. And then when I asked them, was it possible? They say, yes, it is possible. Can they do it? No, I've not tried it. So in a certain way, they have not getting their hands dirty and they're doing it from ground up and completing that whole thing. So colleges, I feel they're doing a lot of syntax heavy teaching where they probably can help you code a certain portion of it, but not end to end. So don't you feel that logic and design thinking also should be included?
Actually, we cannot take a college for responsible for this, because college is teaching the foundation.
Correct.
Okay. So it depends on you, on students, how they are taking this knowledge and sharpening their skills. Okay. Because when college is teaching, they are going to take exams and student focuses only on exams.
Correct.
So as a student, my goal is to crack this exam and get certain marks. So I will land in the campus interview. But what happens when interviewer asks about the real life problem, many students fails to place that problem into the code level solution.
Correct.
And that understanding of real life problem making them difficult to finding a job.
Yes, I totally agree with what Nathan said. Right now, how the syllabus structure is in colleges, in universities, and how the examination is being conducted, that is not reflective of being a good software engineer per se. I have seen people with 9+ CGPA who are not getting hired versus people with 7 CGPA who are getting hired with very great packages. So just to add on that, like Nathan said, colleges have a certain syllabus, they have a certain exam structure, and some companies have threshold just to filter out the noise that they will only take people above 9 CGPA. So that I feel is also in some way or the other a wrong criteria, because people only try to get good marks and in the process they tend to focus on the wrong things or not focus on the right things.
I remember I went to this interview, not take the name of the organization. So basically a little bit about the situation. So it was a small investment banking sort of a role where that person's job was to calculate ratios and stuff, financial ratios basically. So I walked into the interview. I had a 1.5 years of experience. I walked into that interview and I had not done my post-graduation back then. So I went there, I was standing in the line, and when my turn came, I gave the resume and this person was like, we only hire MBAs. And I'm like, okay, but you do see that I have the required knowledge. No, we only hire MBAs and right now you're not fitting into the category. But then I'm like, you are going to hire someone who has not done this and then
Rather than have someone.
And unfortunately, that firm lost that particular client. So they did that contract for like 6-7 months and then they lost because people were not good. So technically I win, but then it's really bad that when organizations do that and then they limit their own potential basically.
No, actually what happens, they have certain structures to follow. Like the hiring process is managed by HR, who has certain checklist. Okay, so we are going to hire MBA. So HR don't have clarity what exactly they are looking for.
Correct.
So speaking of career growth, is like coding a still reliable long-term career path, like in the age of automation and AI?
Okay, so I'm going to make a very bold statement. So if you want to build a career in tech industry in current time, then you cannot rely only on schools or formal education. You must have that core hunger within you so you can learn from any available resource. Because if you are going to market with some basic level of skill set, AI is already doing that. So there is no place for mediocre students. So it is better to have some different education and move to some different industries where they can live happy life with some limited stress. So what happens in IT industry? People get fascinated with the packages that they offer, and everyone trying to get that, and so they do not invest time in learning the things. So depending on the formal education will lead only mediocre students. Eventually they face difficulties for getting the job.
So how I see this is, let's see, think what AI is doing today, what it is capable of doing. If you are doing anything which AI cannot do, then you are irreplaceable. So like we discussed earlier, that AI, due to its inherent nature, does not have the capability to think, but AI can do the grunt work. So if you are looking into, or if you're confused about whether you should enter the tech industry, whether you should enter the coding, whether you should enter as a coder or not, then like Nathan and we discussed earlier, that you should not be mediocre. You should go above the lens, and you should have the core foundation very strong. You should know exactly what frameworks you are using, how to achieve a particular thing using a code without using any AI help. Use AI only for your learning, and be so strong that what you can do is not easily achievable by AI. Just to point out, just a few months ago, there was an AI model developed by OpenAI called O3. It participated in a competitive programming competition, and it came in the top 0.2%. So it is pretty much clear that writing a code is something that AI can do better than almost all humans on the planet.
You mentioned about receiving one DM on LinkedIn and asking you to do a certain course and you get an opportunity with Google. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So what happens is that, let's say I'm currently struggling to get a job, or let's say I just completed a course and I'm currently not getting any job. So there are certain courses very, very much popular on LinkedIn nowadays that I've seen, like from Boss Coder or Scalar. So what these courses do is, if you see the syllabus, yeah, you will feel like, oh, you are learning so much and you will be job ready. And once you do the course, you will get the job. But what happens is, they only tend to teach the topics, but only on the surface level. And they cover, let's say, 20 topics, but you are not the master of anything. And then what these courses do is, to attract everyone, they sell in the name of packages, high paying packages, that just take my course and you will get 30 LPA, 40 LPA. And it looks very attractive on the front. And even if you check the course content, and they sell it like people who have done my course are currently placed in Google, Microsoft, and all the top tier companies. So you correlate that because of the course, they got the job. But that's not true at all.
I think it's more about how deep they went into that topic, and how, of course, even in terms of colleges as well, who are teaching these courses and stuff, and then these online courses and stuff, they can teach you surface level or probably intermediate level of things, but to land something like a 40 LP or 35 LP, you should have that ability as well, that how deep you went and what problem you solved. And I think it's not easy to even crack those interviews of 35, 40 LPA in the first go. I think those people, it's not like luck, right? Because you did 5 projects and hence you will be asked questions about that 5 project is not a thing. Probably they went one, the companies went one up and they were like, okay, let me ask this question to this person. Will this person be able to solve it? And then no, obviously. So that is one more thing that probably will make a lot of difference. And as rightly pointed out by both of these, that it's not the institution's problem all the time. Sometimes students also need to sort of put additional effort when they're studying.
Speaking of, as a country, like, can India or any other nation really build its own version of Silicon Valley?
It depends on the mentality, because if you look at the Indians, they are mostly looking for a job. So if you ask any students what are their plans after landing in tech industry, so they are going to say, I'm going to work XYZ company. Okay, this is my dream. So no one talks about the product. Okay, I'm going to build this product that will beat Facebook or Instagram.
Correct. Right, because look at the products that we have. China has DeepSeek, and the kind of products we have is like Zomato, Paytm, Swiggy, which is like the food delivery app. So where is the innovation that is, even though it's getting job opportunities to many people, But still, at the global level, it is not creating that impact. It's just at the national level.
I think, Robbie, I will try to add to this. This is a very controversial topic because it depends on the ecosystem of the country as well, right? Like the education system, the amount of investments done in research and development and stuff. Like there was this one video that I went through of an IIT researcher. Basically, this person was in IIT Bombay and he did his research and everything, and he was just getting paid like 20-25K, and that and where he stays in near IIT Bombay, it's Powai. So that area minimum rent is 30K. So how will he survive in 25K? So you have to understand what is the ecosystem over here. Are they putting money in research and development? Like for example, one thing that we are really good at is pharma. We have really good R&D over here, and a lot of our pharma companies are exporting good amount of medical knowledge outside as well, if you notice. But that is again, the government has made some regulations over here, and hence they're able to do a certain amount of production and export it, right? So the same amount of investment, or probably the ecosystem, like for example the infrastructure, probably the network, probably the ecosystem of the whole entrepreneur game and everything needs to be made strong. Because if you notice, like Singapore or China or probably Norway or Germany, they have literally invested that kind of money into that whole ecosystem, and that's what brings out the good stuff. If you care to add something.
Okay, so I'm completely agree with Johnny's point. So if you look at the ground level, there is a student who is from a middle class family background. Okay, his family already spent on his education. So if you look at that student, his goal is, so I'll get a job and I'll pay back to my parents. Okay, so my complete focus or his complete focus will be on earnings only. So his goal will be just landed up in the high paying job.
Mhm.
So in that scenario, if you look at the stats, all the engineers in the West countries, most are the Indians.
Mhm.
Okay, because they are going there for the high packaging jobs.
So that is one thing, and I also feel, Robbie, that probably we may not build a Mark Zuckerberg or something like that, but we'll have something in the space where we are good at producing something. Like for example, we have some homegrown brands like Tata, and then there is Mahindra, and then there is Aditya Birlas. So they have built their own thing, and now they're exporting it outside. Although one name may not come up, but these are brands that are homegrown. So now India needs to build sustainable brands that even in the AI ecotech space, basically, or probably I feel that there is a lot of opportunity in EV markets and stuff. So probably AI can help to enhance these particular industries.
I think there is so many points that we should consider before commenting on this. Let's suppose there is one role which is available in Tata or Mahindra or any other local company or domestic company. Okay. But if you look at the position, for same position, if you look at the foreign companies, they are paying 10x more.
Correct.
So if you look at the financial status of Indian students, so it is natural that they will go for the foreign opportunity.
Correct.
And if you look at the social status, so it is uplifting their status. Okay, our son just working in foreign company, is staying out of India.
Yeah.
So there are social norms as well.
Again, coming back to innovations, like we know that Flipkart began in a small Bangalore apartment because coding can be done by an individual and it can reach out to billions. Similarly, Zomato and one student in Pune who coded a payment solution. And we have worked for payment industry. We know that it takes so much to innovate and provide a solution services. And now that we are going to another countries also, giving our services to this. So yes, I do believe that coding has that potential, just if you have enough knowledge and if you keep on thriving, maybe we can have someone from our country too.
Definitely. So adding to that, like what it takes to innovate, the amount of effort, the amount of failed experiments, and how much you have to go through before being successful versus the reward that currently any innovator gets in India versus outside India, the difference is pretty huge. Like I was just looking at the numbers, the budget allocated for research agencies for the fiscal year 2025 is 65,000 crores versus if I look at the budget allocated to, let's say, some other schemes like women's welfare schemes is 4.49 lakh crores. So if you see the difference, that the amount of focus India is giving to researchers is very less right now. So I feel that also somewhere plays a role into someone trying to innovate versus just doing a 9 to 5 job or moving outside India because they get rewarded more.
And you mentioned, I remember you mentioned about for student should not use AI, but for entrepreneurs they should use AI because they can scale up or improve. Maybe you can just mention one comment on that.
Yes. So how I see that is that if you are a student, you should focus more on improving your cognitive ability, improving your thinking ability. So you should only use AI to assist you in learning new things. And if you are an entrepreneur, then you can use AI for rapid prototyping. You can code a website pretty much in 1 day or two just by using many of the AI tools available today. So for entrepreneurs, AI helps you for rapid prototyping. And for students, AI helps you learning new skills but at a much faster pace.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's relevant or not, but just learning coding by itself may not give you an idea about the industry. Probably it will help you in a tech industry. But what about places where this can be applied? So you need to, I feel that having a bit of, or at least surface level knowledge of what industries are there, what they actually do, and how can you apply that whole thing over there, rather than, like, for example, my wife, she loves coding. She's into coding, but she's from a management background. She did her management studies, and then she moved on into design. And then she identified that design in itself cannot solve a lot of problems. So she moved into coding, and now she loves coding. So now, but her love is basically designing, and she has a little bit of interest in the healthcare and a little bit in fintech as well. So she has done some part of her design work in the fintech industry, or probably the retail work and everything. So what she, or probably a lot of these students, are missing out earlier on is that they don't know what industries are there out there. Like, what students do is they go in work, and then they realize, oh, this is not for me. I think I would be better off somewhere else. Why don't you read about something? I'm not saying like mug up about stuff, but at least go through, like, okay, what are those industries out there? Where will this knowledge get applied in the first place? Can I bring innovation over here or there, or God knows where? So that's what my wife, she did a journey of last 10 years, and she's like, oh, I really like healthcare, I really like design, and I really like coding. So probably I'll try to combine something of that. So although it took 10 years to figure out, I feel students should get there.
Yeah.
If you can add something on that.
10 years is a long time, but I'm glad that she's able to find her calling, the purpose.
Yeah.
So on a closing note, maybe if you want to tell, maybe students or parents or entrepreneurs, that one search stop or one resource where they can have or the understanding about whatever we discussed, what would that be?
So one non-negotiable which I keep in mind after the surge of LLMs is that you should try very much hard that your thinking ability does not get reduced. I know I'm repeating this again and again, but you should use LLMs. You can use LLMs, but in the process, you should not outsource your thinking. You should not lose your creative edge. That's the one non-negotiable that I keep in my mind, and that everyone should keep in mind.
I know you spoke about this research thing. Can you elaborate a bit about that particular research that they had done on this?
Definitely. So there was a research done which was called Your Brain on ChatGPT. You can look that up. It's a really amazing research. But I'll just cover the key findings in the interest of saving time. So they had 3 groups. And they made them write essays, and they tested their brain waves, their brain scans. They did a complete research on what's the effect on your brain on using ChatGPT or LLMs per se. So there was one group which only used ChatGPT. There was one group which had access to internet but not access to any LLM. So they can only use any website or search up on Google. And the third group, which was on their own, they had no access to internet, no access to any LLMs or sort, only use your brain to do the task. And they, over the course of 4 months, there were like 50 plus participants across these groups. And across the span of 4 months, they made them write essays. They analyzed the essays that people wrote. They analyzed how their brain is doing on different parts of the research. And the findings were pretty fascinating. Like there are different brain waves, alpha, theta, delta, details of which, like basically which capture what's your learning ability, your memory, the ability to quote things that you learn, and then your creativity, the different parts of brain responsible for different things. So the group which only used LLMs, the brain, the areas which brain, the active areas were very less. The networks which get fired were very, very less, like 55% less than what the brain only group had.
Mhm.
And they also did a crossover study, like people who used only brain for writing the essays, and then they made them, now you use AI. So how they used AI after using their brain, how their creativity is. So they used AI very strategically, and versus if when the group which only used LLMs, then they told them, now you only use your brain, you don't have access to LLMs. So then their connectivity even dropped. So it's pretty, like, we underestimate the effect that these AI tools are having on our brain. I definitely recommend that everyone should have a look at the research paper.
Okay, so I have one cinematic context for this. Okay, you might have seen the Spider-Man Homecoming.
Mhm.
Okay, where Peter took suit from the Tony and he jumps into problems.
Mhm.
So eventually Tony takes back his suit,
Mhm.
where Peter just requests him, begged for him to give it back. And he just said, I'm nothing without this suit. Then Tony Stark says, if you are nothing without this, then you shouldn't deserve it.
Yeah.
So it applies to AI. If you are nothing with AI, then you don't deserve AI.
Yeah. This very nice thought, and I think you couldn't have put it better. And I think this whole conversation was really amazing. I felt quite relieved that there are uncomfortable things that people don't realize, and a lot of these topics came out in this particular conversation. What do you think, Robbie?
I do. And it was quite insightful. As I look back to the conversation we had, it was really an eye-opener for me, because my nephew came to me and he was asking to what career to pursue. And it was more like just an FYI that he's getting into this computer application and coding. But maybe I'll forward this episode to him for him to have a better understanding or give your contacts, because I think it's really important for people to understand that what just sounds and what is sold on advertisement it's really fit for you or not.
Awesome. So thank you for listening to us, and do keep in touch with us on our various platforms that we are on, and keep listening and helping us out. Thank you very much.